Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I hope you can hear me. I'm running two computers right now, so I hope this works. There is a thought that I wanted to share with you. The thought can be stated briefly or it can be stated at great length. Tonight, I will start stating the idea briefly, and then maybe over the course of the next few weeks until Tisha B'Av and after Tisha B'Av, I will expand on the idea. As my starter text, we'll be using Hilchos Beis HaBechira by the Rambam, where he talks about the laws of building the Beis Hamikdash. And we started last time. We are now at Halacha Gimel. The Rambam says, Kevan Shevnevne Hamikdash B'Yerushalayim. Once the Beis Hamikdash was built in Jerusalem by Shlomo HaMelech, Ne'esru Kol HaMekomos Kulan. All other locations became forbidden. Meaning, even though, as the Rambam explained, before Shlomo built the Beis Hamikdash, there were several locations where the Beis Hamikdash or some version of the temple stood, whether in the desert, the Mishkan that Moshe built, or in Gilgal, or in Shiloh, or in Nov, or in Givon, in all of these different places. Once Shlomo established the temple in Jerusalem, then it became known as what the Rambam earlier called the Beis Olamim, the eternal house, and that was it. Nesru kol makomos kulan. All other places became forbidden. Livnos behen Beis Lashem, to build a house for Hashem. Ulahakriv behen korban, to bring sacrifices, to bring karbanos. Ve'ein sham Beis ledore hadoros. There is no other house for all future generations. Ela b'Yerushalayim bilvad, unless it is in Yerushalayim. Ubahar HaMoriah, and within Yerushalayim it has to be on what we call the Temple Mount nowadays, Har HaMoriah. Sheba Nemar, regarding this place, Har HaMoriah, it is said, Vayomer David, Zehu Beis Hashem Elokim, V'zeh Mizbech La'ola L'Yisrael. This, and the point the Rambam is making, is this and only this is the house for God, and this and only this is the place that can be the altar for all offerings, L'Yisrael, by the Jews. The Omer, and it also says, Hashem said, Zos menuchasi adei ad. This is my place of establishment, of rest, meaning I will rest here, adei ad, forever. So the question is, why? Right? It's an easy enough question. The point is not just that Shlomo HaMelech's temple would stand, but this had very great repercussions for centuries and to this day, which means that even when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Jews no longer had an option to build it anywhere else. You see, all the previous places, the Mishkan in Shiloh, for example, was destroyed, and Nov, it was destroyed, and in Givon, it was taken down, and then it was moved elsewhere. However, once it's in Yerushalayim, even when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed by the Babylonians, the Jews did not have the option of saying, well, we'll rebuild it somewhere else, whether outside of Eretz Yisrael or in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't matter. One place only forever. So I wanted to focus on what I call the real life, religious, and I'll even say it, political implications of this. One of the things this means, and the Rambam discusses this elsewhere, and it's a Mishnah in Masechtas Zvachim, is that once Shlomo built the Beis Hamikdash, a union was created between religion and state that would never be taken apart again. As I mentioned in the last class, there is a connection between the Beis Hamikdash and the king. And just as a king is the one who has to build the Beis Hamikdash, meaning it cannot be a private affair, where private people put together donations and someone decides of his own initiative to build a Beis Hamikdash without it being nationally ordained and approved by the national government, meaning the king. This became permanent. I'll give you one very important political implication, and this is another halacha. I don't think the Rambam mentions it here, but he mentions it elsewhere. The idea that ein yeshiva bazara Malche Beis David Bilvad, which means nobody is allowed to sit in the courtyard of the temple of the Beis Hamikdash unless he is a king from the line of David, meaning part of the Davidic line. Now, we all accept this as an idea that we will refer to as halach l'Moshe Sinai, that this is the way that it has to be. But I want you to understand what it means that it has to be this way. That line, nobody can sit in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash unless it's David's descendant, a king who is David's descendant, means that from a religious point of view, no other king, even if he has the approval of a prophet, even if he is a legitimate political ruler, no other king is allowed to sit in the Beis Hamikdash, which means no king will be seen as fully valid unless he is from the line of David. This had major repercussions in Sefer Malachim, and we read from the rest of Tanakh, when Yeravam ben Nevat took the 10 tribes in the north and created his own kingdom. It's stated in Sefer Malachim, that's the book of Kings, that he created his own temples. One temple in Beit El, and the other temple in Dan. And he is faulted greatly. If you read throughout Tanakh, throughout Sefer Malachim, they criticize Yeravam for having made this decision, that he basically split the Jewish people into two religions. So I'd like to suggest, and this sounds blasphemous, but it's not, is that Yeravam really had no choice. The Gemara itself says that Yeravam had no choice. Why didn't he have a choice? Because, as the Gemara says, Yeravam knew. He created a kingdom. A prophet, Achya Hashiloni, gave him God's blessing to create a separate kingdom because Rechavam was not behaving. As a lesson to Rechavam, that was Shlomo's son, who was too much of a tyrant. So Yeravam made a decision based on the following logic. He said, okay, I have my kingdom. My kingdom has the blessing of a prophet. But what difference does that make that I have the prophet's blessing? Do you realize what's going to happen? He said to himself. As soon as the Jews in my kingdom, meaning the Bnei Israel, the kingdom of Israel, decide that they want to spend their first Yontif in the Beis Hamikdash, what's going to happen? They're going to go to the Beis Hamikdash, and if I want to be considered a good Jew, I will have to go to the Beis Hamikdash as well for Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And what's going to happen? Everyone's going to come to the Holy Temple for Yontif, and everyone's going to be standing except for one man. Who's going to be sitting? Rechavam, or Rechavam's heir. Everyone's going to look at the situation and see that Rechavam is sitting. I have to stand. The conclusion everyone will reach is that I am not a legitimate king. And then they're going to kill me. So if I'm going to survive politically, I have to create my own religious institutions. This, by the way, lahavdil, is the same decision that Henry VIII made when he created his own religion. Because he said, if I am to have political power, then that means that I have to assert religious power. Everyone blames Henry VIII for being shallow and just creating a religion because he was in a fight with the Pope. However, you have to understand, and I'm sorry to go from Yeravam and David and the Beis Hamikdash to talk about English politics in the 1500s. However, it's a very important point, and the points really do relate very strongly, with a big lahavdil, of course. Henry VIII, at this point, had a daughter. You might say, well, what's wrong with a daughter? A daughter can inherit the English throne, the British throne. The current queen, of course, is female. She's been reigning over Britain for the last 65 years. I'm sorry, more than that, 60, whatever it is, 68 years. And before that, you had Queen Victoria, so you can have a queen. However, Henry understood that for his dynasty to continue, it wasn't important to have a queen. The queen would get married. Nowadays, the queen can marry whoever she wants. You can marry some Greek prince from nowhere, some Belgian prince from nowhere. At the time, religion mattered. And if the queen was going to marry, then meaning his daughter, Mary, was going to marry, then she would only be able to marry someone from another country. As in fact happened, during the few years that Mary was queen, she married a Spanish prince who became, for the time of her life, during her lifetime, became king. Henry realized if England is to remain independent, we cannot have a queen, because once we have a queen, all of English interests are going to go to Spain or to some other country. So to bring it back over here, this realization that was created by Yeravam is that what Shlomo did by building the Beis Hamikdash and putting it in Yerushalayim and making Yerushalayim its single permanent location is that he fused the Jewish people together religiously through the political reality that we call Beis David, the house of David, the line of David. Now, that's why he created his own religion. He was wrong, of course, because once Shlomo HaMelech did this, which is what the Rambam is saying over here, then he fused a new reality for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael would now be united forever in one religion. And anyone who broke away from the politics of Mashiach, by Mashiach I mean Shlomo HaMelech, any descendant of David, is breaking away from the Jewish religion itself. It's an amazing thing. And this is a gift, even though you might say, well, look what he did. Isn't that a bad thing? Jewish disunity? However, the point is just the opposite. Even though it caused this temporary harm, as we find in the Book of Kings, of all the civil wars and the battles that took place between the north and the south, the truth is that Shlomo HaMelech created a reality that would serve the Jews to this day. Meaning for thousands of years, even though we have not had a Beis Hamikdash in almost 2,000 years, yet the reality is that the Jewish religion, meaning the Das Moshe Yisrael, has been a single entity. And had other temples been able to be created here, there, and other places, then the Jewish connection to Yerushalayim, the Jewish connection to a single kingdom, Malchus Beis David, would have been broken apart. This is why, and another connection, if you like learning Tanakh, this is why Yeravam not only had to create his own religion, he had to abandon Sukkos. If you read in Sefer Melachim, it describes that Yeravam created a new Yontif in the 8th month, meaning the 7th month is Tishrei, the 8th month is Mar Cheshvan. Yeravam created a Yontif on the 15th day of the 8th month. So why did he do that? What's wrong with Sukkos? Because I'm sorry that it's interrupting, but I'm not sure what I can do about it. I'm sorry. The Sukkos is not only a holiday of the Torah, Sukkos is a yontif of Malchus Beis David, because the Beis Hamikdash was inaugurated on Sukkos. So this is what he's saying. Once the Yerushalayim temple was built, once the Beis Hamikdash was built, this established Malchus Beis David, which David realized. That's why he wanted to build a temple himself. Hashem said, no, let your son build it. And when he heard, let your son build it, David was thrilled, because this meant that what he tried to do during his lifetime to establish his kingdom was now going to be a permanent fixture in Klal Yisrael. That's what I meant by religion and state being united. Just another historical example, for those of you who listen to me in Shul, you know I like bringing up political comparisons. When the United States declared independence from Britain in 1776, they realized that they would have to create their own religion as well. However, they didn't have to break off their religion entirely. However, they realized that the religion that most Americans belonged to at the time was the Church of England. The Church of England, by definition, recognized as its leader the King of England. And Americans said, look, we're willing to go with the religion, but we certainly are not going to recognize George III as the head of our church. We rejected him and we declared independence from him. That's why they created what's known as the Episcopal Church, the idea that they would have to separate religiously if they wanted to be truly separate politically. This is the mistake that Yeravam made, and this is the great success that Shlomo made, and this is what we find here in this halacha, that the permanence of Yerushalayim ensures the permanence of Klal Yisrael, the permanence of a kingdom of Klal Yisrael. That Klal Yisrael will never just be a religion, like our enemies try to say when they try to separate our connection to the Holy Land with all sorts of Zionism is racism nonsense. The connection between our religion and statecraft is ensured by making sure that Yerushalayim can be the only place where the Beis Hamikdash stands. So what we have now, even without a Beis Hamikdash, the reality of this halacha that the Beis Hamikdash can only be in Yerushalayim unites the Jewish people together as much as an actual Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. So it's a wonderful halacha, even though it's obviously meant to be, halakhically speaking, an element of sadness. Yet the fact that we refuse to accept anyone else and any other place as our source of unity, even though it's just in words, the words of our davening, Hamachazir Shchinaso L'Tzion, Bonei Yerushalayim, Matzmiach Keren Yeshua, all the things that we daven for when we in benching, when we daven for Yerushalayim as well. All of those things ensure a Jewish achdus, a unity, because we are saying we will accept no replacements whatsoever. And this halacha, in effect, serves as our Beis Hamikdash. I hope that once I end the live video and it's posted up on Facebook and on YouTube, that the broadcast will no longer interrupt. But I'm going to stop there for tonight, and I wish you all a good night. Take care, everybody.